Hi guys, I'm Carly, and today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful January wreath. I like to start the beginning of any wreath planning by going to the craft store and deciding on what wreath base that I want to use. For January, I was really looking at the outdoors and bringing some of that in, and when I was looking out the street, I just saw a lot of leaf-bearing trees that were all twigs and dried up leaves, and I kind of loved the simplicity and beauty of that. So I chose to get a twine wreath. This one is from Hobby Lobby, and it was $4.99, so it's a very affordable wreath base to start off with. I then took my base and went through the floral department. I chose this great winter foliage. I fell in love with the really crisp, snowy look of these. I personally grew up north and loved the snow, but now live in Florida and miss that a bit, so I thought I would bring it into my wreath. I had one big bunch of these, and I simply cut them apart from the base so that each stem I could position where I wanted it. It's really easiest to do this with wire cutters because the base has a wire that runs through it that's then covered with a plastic stem. I couldn't find my wire cutters today, so I just scored the plastic part with a regular scissor and then bent them back and forth on the stem until it snapped. It does that really easily, and if you don't have wire cutters before you run out and buy them, just go ahead and use a pair of sturdy scissors. Start by laying your wreath out on the table. I like to work on 1/4 to 1/3 of my wreath at a time, unless you do a full wreath. For this one, because I don't want to completely cover the twine, I'm going to work on 1/3 of the wreath. I'm going to take each individual stem of this foliage and start inserting it right into the twine. And I'm going to do one stem at a time, and every one I'm going to go down a couple more inches and work back and forth until I have some nice coverage. If a piece of your floral or your leaves come off, just work them into it separately. It's no big deal. If you wanted a more permanent wreath, you could always put a little bit of hot glue at the bottom of the stem before you put it into the wreath itself. I personally don't do that because I like to use the same wreath bases season after season and just change out the foliage. I find that I get a lot more use out of my investment that way, and I like to change up my wreaths a lot. If you only want to do this once and store it year after year, you might want to use hot glue, or you can take a length of floral wire such as this and run it through a branch or two and secure it that way. I cut a few just in case I needed them, but I don't think I'm going to for this one. Now that I have all of my foliage in place, I'm just going to take my leftover leaves and insert them here and there, where I think I could use a little bit more greenery. And I think that looks really nice. I'm going to put my extras off to the side. The final step for our January wreath is the ribbon. I chose a nice sheer ribbon that has snowflakes and the words "Let It Snow" in a nice pure white that's in keeping with my flowers. One of the things I like about this ribbon, and it's my go-to for all of the different bows that I do, is that it's wire edged. That means that there's a little stitching at the side that encases a really thin wire. This helps you shape the final shape of the bow after you tie it, and it gives you a much fuller bow. It just looks a lot more professional. You don't have to get wire edged ribbon, but if you don't get a wire edged ribbon, get a ribbon that has a nice full body to it so that it naturally holds its own shape. Something this year would not hold its shape without the wire in the edge. Alright, I have a lot of elaborate videos up for bows, but today I'm going to keep things really simple because I wanted this to be a nice clean wreath. So we're going to take our ribbon and we're going to flip it over so that it's wrong side up. Pass it through the bottom of our wreath. And as I'm passing it through, I'm unwinding it from the spool. I want to have a good amount of ribbon. And I can always adjust this later. But when I have a good amount of ribbon, I'm going to cut it from the base. And I'm just doing a rough cut right now. I will clean this up later, so I'm not worried about it. Hold the ends of the ribbons up so that they're roughly the same length. Okay. And then you're going to tie a simple knot. Right where all of your stuff comes together. I don't make it too tight. I'm just kind of working the ribbon to keep it from bunching up too much on itself. Now, with a simple bow, an easy trick, pick the bottom one first and make a loop out of it. Then take the top one that comes out, wrap it around the loop that you've made, keeping it from twisting, and pass it back through itself, and then pull tight. You'll have to adjust this a couple times until you get it nice and snug. All we're doing is making a really simple bow, and then once you have it as snug as you want it in the center, then you can start making sure that your two loops are roughly the same size. And this is when I use that really nice wire at the edge of my ribbon and start shaping my loops just by putting my hands on the inside. And I have this just loose enough that I can still pull the ends of the ribbon in to make my two sides even. All right, now that my bow is in place, I want you to be able to see this last part, so I'm going to move around a little bit. I'm going to determine how long I want these ends to be, and once I've determined where I want them, I'm going to fold them in half, and then I am going to cut on the diagonal from the wire edge up to the center. Clean it up just a little bit because this is really sheer stuff. And then when you unfold it, you will have a nice triangular cut. And for thicker ribbons, this happens a lot neater, but you might need to clean it up just a little bit with a sheer ribbon like this. And then you're going to do the same thing for the other side. Fold it in half. And then start at the wire edge and work your way up to the center. The angle by which you do this determines how deep the V is going to be or how shallow it's going to be. open it up, and then just clean up anything that's not completely straight. And there you have our finished January wreath.